Hi guys, it's Luton here, and back for another episode of On the Level with myself and LevelCap. And today we're going to be talking about DICE's involvement with the Star Wars franchise, and also about mobile gaming, the new sort of Frostbite Go engine, looking at some of the titles that are being put across there. But first off, with the whole Star Wars thing that's been happening this week, are you excited about this, LevelCap? Are you feeling the Star Wars vibe? Do you think they're going to be pushing forward some of these series like Battlefront that people are very excited about? There's a few other studios involved, but DICE obviously is the main exciting one.
Oh, dude, I am so pumped for Star Wars and DICE. Like, my two favorite things combined into one. You know, I feel like it's an old MTV commercial or something. It's just, I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I'm not going to deny that. But having DICE with just their experience with first-person shooters, getting behind a title of this magnitude, I think we're looking at something that could potentially be like one of the biggest games of all time.
You know, people have been saying for ages, and I have been saying for ages, with Battlefield, you know, what else is going to beat it? There is nothing around that has really been suggested that I have seen where I thought, wow, that's going to be like the next big thing, until now. And now I feel like, wow, Star Wars and DICE, it's pretty much the only thing that I could think of that would take it down anyway, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's honestly, like, people have their opinions about LucasArts dissolving, but honestly, all their video games always had this kind of really rough around the edges feel to them.
Yeah.
And I think it's great to give somebody else a chance with the Star Wars franchise, with DICE's art department and the talent pool that they're going to be recruiting. The studio's in LA, by the way, so it's not going to be the same guys who do Battlefield, but you know, it'll be the same guys who set up DICE Studios, recruiting and orchestrating the whole thing. So I still have a lot of faith in their abilities. They'll probably use the same Frostbite engine. In fact, that's practically a guaranteed. So, I mean, just thinking, like, even if it is just a Battlefield facelift of Star Wars, I'm still on board. Like, I don't even care. Like, that sounds like a lot of fun to me.
I mean, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, with regards to studio, we don't know. I mean, often I know, for example, with companies like the company that I work for, when there are internal vacancies available, they'll say, hey guys, do you want to put up for this job? There's nothing to say that many people that work over there in Sweden at the moment may be appealed the idea of moving to LA and working on these other projects. There's nothing to say that there couldn't be...
It's the chosen land, man.
Yeah,
it attracts people from everywhere.
Maybe. But, but, you know, so there is that component to that situation there. But the other thing as well, when we're talking about Frostbite and Frostbite being used in other games, I mean, obviously we have seen Frostbite used in other games, but maybe not used to its full potential. It's a good thing. It's a good thing, you know, we all know. But I think it's a good thing that DICE are obviously involved in this project directly, so therefore they should have a better knowledge base about using their own sort of systems and their own infrastructure. So when they come to making this game, and also I've seen a lot of talk recently, a lot of people posing the questions of, are FPS games really valid nowadays if they don't have destructible environments? Because I think that was something else that, well, I mean, for example, with Medal of Honor, I remember you commenting, but I have said as well in general about this thing of, when your environments now, when you've been playing Battlefield, you go to another game that doesn't have that sort of environment in place, and all of a sudden everything feels very dead and static.
Yeah.
So I think that will help it a lot.
On that same note, so the studio has already opened its doors, and some of the Medal of Honor employees have been hired on.
No. No.
That doesn't mean anything, though. I think the gun design in Medal of Honor was better than any other game I've ever seen. I think some of the artwork was top-notch, really good ideas. So, I mean, it doesn't mean anything. It's not going to be Medal of Honor Star Wars. It's just employees. You know, they could be artists, whatever, programmers.
I think as well. I think as well, it's important to keep a bit of perspective, because whilst, yes, so exciting, DICE and Star Wars, maybe we need to keep our feet on the ground here and not get too overexcited, because if we build up our expectations so high and we're like, oh my god, it's going to be Battlefield but Star Wars,
it's too late, you know, for me, Luton. I'm already looking for posters, you know. I'm just
I don't know what gives it away of the countless sort of Star Wars Lego models you have all over the house. It's just like a hint in the direction, isn't it, you know? So
yeah, although I'm an old school Star Wars fan now. None of that new stuff. If this is like episode 1. Well, actually, if it's just a war game, it doesn't really matter that much. But
Yeah.
I don't want no like Padme bullshit going on in this game. If you can play as Padme in the multiplayer version, like I'm just gonna table flip.
She could be destructible. You could fire a laser rifle, take her arms and legs off.
Yeah, or the whiny Anakin.
Yeah. Oh man.
Just kind of whine with your lightsaber.
But I mean, I will be very interested to see where they go with it. For another thing, I'll be very interested to see whether they go down the route of single player multiplayer or pure multiplayer. Interesting. It would be curious. I feel pretty certain that they'll go down the whole single player multiplayer route, just from the fact that when I questioned them about it early in the year, they seemed so on board with the single player thing. But it's got to be said, I do really wish that they would sort of bite the bullet and say, okay, we're just going to go multiplayer, because I don't know, they seem to really sort of validate and talk about the single player things.
It's just it's just business practice. Even though like what is it, 10% or a little over 10% of the Battlefield community is excited for the single player, that's enough to like make the cost worthwhile. Because even if most of the community isn't going to touch single player, the marketing material you get from being able to like show clips from single player and show all these basically scripted events going off. I mean, they look awesome for trailers, so it pretty much pays for itself to do the single player campaign anyway. Yeah,
it's got to be true. And I mean, the other thing as well, people always say like, oh, but if you put all those resources into multiplayer, you could do so much more. And it's kind of like, well, maybe not, because I think if you actually remember and you actually look at Battlefield games, a lot of the stuff that's in the single players, like look through Bad Company, look at Battlefield 3, a lot of the buildings and elements from the single player end up being copied and pasted and translated into the actual multiplayer game itself. And also, I remember from the tech demo we saw at the Battlefield 4 event, when they were showing about how Frostbite 3 works, they were very, very vocal about this. When they demoed it on screen and he was showing how you could move elements around, he was saying like, look, you can move this, and it's a much more fluid kind of liquid organic process. So you really get the feeling that they're going to be like, okay, this level right here, we're going to take this, and so on and so on. I mean, also for multiplayer games, think about, again, the campaign and single player. Quite often, multiplayer levels are literally just a copied and pasted single player. So I never really buy into this idea that if they remove the single player, you could put everything into multiplayer. However, having said that, I just prefer the idea of having like a pure, unadulterated, non-diluted title where it's just like, it's all about this. And I think that's really the perspective to come from. Okay,
absolutely.
Do you want to introduce our next topic?
Yeah. Okay, so basically DICE is working on Frostbite Go, a game engine for mobile devices. Now, there's been other FPS games on cell phones and whatever mobile device you have. I think COD has a cell phone game, is that correct?
I hear it's really good.
Okay, yeah.
No, I'm joking.
I don't know. I personally, nothing about a first-person shooter on a cell phone seems attractive to me. Like, I think I might have tried one once, and the touch screen controls are just ridiculous. Yeah. You're like, I'm really supposed to be a precision warrior with this just weird touch screen, like putting my finger over the guys I'm trying to shoot, and just my fingers are literally blocking my view some of the time, and it's just awkward. But so EA has confirmed that they do intend to use this for a Battlefield game, and who knows? It could be cool. It could suck. The mobile market is so profitable right now. I mean, so many people are buying these mobile games. It'd be stupid for them not to make one, but we'll have to see who they put behind it, because it could be just incredibly generic and painful and not fun. Or who knows? They could take a risk, maybe try and redesign the mobile industry.
With the mobile games, I have Bad Company 2 on my iPhone, mainly because it wasn't very expensive and I just wanted to try it, because I thought, hey, FPS game, let's just see, just as a point of curiosity, how it is. It's not good, but it's a lot better than I thought. It's, you know, the movement, yeah, it's a bit irritating. It's nothing. It's nowhere. You can't even compare to, obviously, a console or PC system. It's just uncomparable. However, I feel like with the Bad Company 2 game you got on the phones right now, it's as good as they could make it, you know, really. And the movements and stuff are not too bad. I hate in general kind of mobile gaming because I just feel like it's so limited. I feel like some genres excel. For example, kind of point and click story games, older stuff like Broken Sword, etc. Those kind of titles, Mist, Riven, things like that, where you're kind of, you know, you're already clicking and it's a very slow process, so you don't have to react or kind of move around too much. Other kind of things can work well, side-scrolling shooters, elements like that. There's a lot of different things that work. FPS games, they do not work, and I can't imagine them working. I mean, also, right? Why would you make, you know, an FPS game in a mobile device when you already have it on these other platforms? Because surely it's just going to be like an ultra diluted version of what you already have on the other systems. And to be honest, I just find that kind of insulting to the title itself. What would be a hell of a lot more exciting would be, I mean, also, you know, you talk about people loving single players and things. Why not take the world, you know, the environment of Battlefield and all those other elements and try and do something smarter, more intelligent or cleverer with the series? So go like, okay, it's the Battlefield universe, but we've done it in a completely different style of game, a genre, whatever. That to me would be the thing to do, a bit more exciting, rather than just like, hey, we've taken the game and forced it into a phone and it kind of works but not really, you know. That's really where I come from.
You know, in EA's defense and DICE's defense, they haven't confirmed that it's going to be a first-person shooter Battlefield game. What if they did like a little RTS Battlefield game?
Yeah,
that could actually be very interesting. And
yes,
RTSs can actually work on mobile devices. I've played a few of them, and if they're set up properly, they could be quite entertaining. So who knows? There could be some actual potential with this. It's Frostbite Go. Do you think it's actually going to resemble anything of the actual Frostbite engine, or it's just marketing?
Marketing. I mean, they're so limited in the device. I mean, how could it possibly be anything related? I mean, I don't know. Maybe you'll have to hit a barrel and it'll blow up. I don't know. But you know, I can't imagine that it's. I can't imagine you're going to have like dense particles and like, you know, it's just not going to happen.
Destructible environments and
collapsible
super
buildings.
advanced physics, particle physics, all that stuff. Yeah.
Although there's other games with collapsible buildings, Angry Birds. You know,
oh,
they've already.
I'm surprised EA hasn't tried to get Battlefield worked into there. They already have Star Wars Angry Birds.
We just come up with a new one. That's the next one. That's the next Angry Birds. Battlefield Angry Birds. That'd be it's going to happen. You can imagine it. You can see it.
Oh, God. Yeah. Or they could do like a rendition of Worms with little Battlefield soldiers.
Oh, my God. I'd be... Yeah, that. Do that. Christ, do that. Oh, my God. I want that.
I think,
Worms Battlefield Edition.
If they took almost a comical or a slightly cartoony approach like they did with Battlefield Heroes, if they sort of implemented that mentality to the mobile gaming, I think they might find a more successful title rather than trying to go all hardcore, single player, like big explosions and stuff. I think people are going to end up just kind of laughing at it, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. I think they need to kind of be realistic and sort of, you know, step back and go, hang on, what are we really trying to do here? If they want to make any kind of successful game on mobile, it has to be simple, it has to work really sort of fluidly and well, and it has to have some kind of addictive element, you know, a kind of repetitive thing that makes people kind of want to do it more and more and more and more and more. A single player campaign, if they were going to do that, it would have to be a completely different style. I just don't think it works in FPS. But again, you know, I'm just not very fan of FPS on phones in general, so I think that's all I've really got with it, is that they need to work at doing something in a different style, different genre, really, to make it work. But I'll be very interested to see what they do with it. I do have a feeling they will just do another FPS title, but we'll see, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for that. Well, not so much for the Go, but I'm pretty excited for the Star Wars aspect of things. We'd love to hear what you guys think about this whole DICE studio in California, Los Angeles, setting up and getting started to work on a Star Wars game. I'm pumped. I think Luton's pretty excited about it too. We'd love to hear what you guys think about it. We'll see you next time. This is LevelCap and Luton signing off.